The silent invasion, the morning mist clung to the valley like a ghostly shroud, and 12-year-old Ella pulled her oversized leather jacket tighter around her small frame. The forest ahead looked different than it had just weeks ago. Darker, more foreboding, as if the very trees were holding their breath. She shouldn't be here alone. Everyone in the village knew that. But Ella had reasons that no one else would understand, reasons that made her heart race with both fear and determination. The invasion had begun 3 months ago, though most people didn't even know it was happening. There were no massive ships descending from the sky, no dramatic explosions or chaos in the streets. Instead, it was subtle a quiet replacement that started in places like this ancient forest. Animals had begun disappearing. First, it was just a few deer, then entire packs of wolves. But what returned in their place were different. They looked right at first glance, but their eyes held an intelligence that was alien, predatory in ways that went beyond natural instinct. Ella's village had been the first to notice. Her grandmother, wise and observant, had pointed out the changes in the wildlife's behavior. "Something's not right," she'd whispered to Ella one evening. "The forest feels wrong." That was before the attack. Before Ella's family was taken by creatures that looked like wolves but moved with calculated precision. Before she'd learned that Earth was slowly being consumed from within by beings from another world. Now, as she stepped deeper into the fog-laden woods, Ella knew she wasn't just running from her past. She was walking toward her destiny. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They'd underestimated what they were truly up against. Behind her, barely visible in the mist, a massive shadow moved silently through the trees. It had been following her for days now, this ancient guardian that had chosen her for reasons she was only beginning to understand. The forest seemed to know something was coming. The very air trembled with anticipation as Ella found a moss-covered log and sat down to rest. Her breathing was steady, her heart calm, despite the danger she knew surrounded her. She wasn't afraid. She hadn't been afraid since the night her family was taken, since she'd discovered the truth about her connection to something far older than the invasion itself. The trees began to shift around her, forming a natural circle, and Ella felt the familiar presence at the edge of her consciousness. They were coming. The real battle was about to begin. The encounter, the silence in the forest was unnatural, as if every living thing had fled or was holding its breath. Ella remained perfectly still on the moss-covered log, her small hands gripping the edges as the trees seemed to lean inward, creating a natural arena around her. From her left came the sound of breaking branches. The creature that emerged from the dark underbrush was unlike anything that belonged on Earth. Its body was sinewy and grotesque, covered in leathery skin that rippled with muscles beneath. Yellow eyes, glowing like molten gold, fixed on her with predatory intensity. Sharp fangs protruded from its elongated jaw, and its long, spindly fingers drummed against the forest floor with barely contained hunger. This was one of them. The alien infiltrators that had been systematically replacing Earth's wildlife. Up close, Ella could see how perfectly they'd mimicked natural forms, while adding their own twisted improvements. This creature was built for hunting, for killing, for preparing the way for something much worse to come. But Ella's attention was drawn to her right, where another presence made itself known. Standing tall as a sentinel was a massive wolf, larger than any natural animal she'd ever seen. Its fur was a stormy white-gray, and its eyes glowed with the same ethereal light as the alien creatures, yet somehow completely different. Wolf was not of Earth either, but it shared no allegiance with the invaders. Ella could feel its ancient purpose, its loyalty to something far older than the stars themselves. It had been bound to humanity long before the invasion began, a protector waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The standoff lasted only seconds, but to Ella, it felt like hours. The alien creature cocked its head, studying her with newfound curiosity. Something about this small human girl wasn't right. She showed no fear, no panic. Instead, she sat calmly between two otherworldly beings as if she belonged there. The alien took a step forward, its claws digging into the earth. It had expected easy prey, a lost child, to eliminate before continuing its mission. But now it sensed something else, something that made its predatory instincts hesitate. Ella slowly raised her hand, and the temperature around them dropped noticeably. The connection she'd discovered after losing her family pulsed stronger now, linking her consciousness to the massive wolf beside her. She wasn't just a frightened girl lost in the woods. She was part of something ancient and powerful. The alien paused, finally understanding that it had walked into a trap. The wolf's muscles tensed, ready to strike. The real battle was about to begin, and Ella knew that everything, her family's fate, her village's survival, perhaps even Earth's future, depended on what happened in the next few moments. Asterisk, Part 3. The battle unleashed. The moment stretched like a taut wire before snapping into violent action. The alien creature lunged forward with inhuman speed, its claws extended and fangs bared, expecting to overwhelm the small girl before the wolf could react. It had made a fatal miscalculation. The massive wolf moved like liquid lightning, intercepting the alien mid-leap with a bone-crushing impact that sent both creatures rolling across the forest floor. The sound of their collision echoed through the trees like thunder, followed by snarls and roars that belonged to no earthly animal. Ella remained seated, her face emotionless as chaos erupted around her. But inside her mind, she was anything but passive. Through the mysterious bond she shared with the wolf, she could feel every movement, every strategic decision, every surge of primal fury. She wasn't just watching the battle, she was part of it. The alien was powerful, its artificial enhancements making it faster and stronger than any natural predator. Its claws raked across the wolf's flank, drawing silver blood that gleamed in the filtered forest light. But the wolf fought with something the alien couldn't replicate, purpose that transcended mere survival. As the creatures grappled, Ella closed her eyes and deepened her connection. She could sense the alien's confusion and growing fear as it realized this wasn't just a fight between two animals. The wolf's attacks were too coordinated, too intelligent. It was as if the beast could anticipate every move before it was made. Because it could. Through Ella, the girl's consciousness flowed into the wolf's mind, guiding its instincts with human intelligence and strategic thinking. When the alien feinted left, Ella knew it would strike right. When it prepared to use its superior reach, she helped the wolf duck low and strike at vulnerable joints. The forest around them bore witness to a battle that represented something far greater than two creatures fighting. This was the collision of two evolutionary paths, one that sought to consume and replace, and another that had evolved to protect and preserve. The alien's howl of pain pierced the air as the wolf's powerful jaws clamped down on its forearm. But even wounded, the creature wasn't finished. With desperate fury, it drove its free claws toward the wolf's throat, seeking to end the fight with one killing blow. Ella's eyes snapped open, and she stood for the first time since the encounter began. The temperature plummeted further, and frost began forming on the nearby trees. The alien's claws stopped inches from their target, trembling against an invisible force. For the first time, true fear flickered in those molten gold eyes. This wasn't just a girl and her protector. This was something the invasion force had never accounted for, a human who had formed a symbiotic bond with one of the ancient guardians, creating something entirely new. The wolf pressed its advantage, and with a final devastating bite, the alien creature went limp. Victory belonged to Earth's unlikely defenders, but Ella knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the depths of the forest, Other alien creatures had felt their comrade's death. They would come looking, and they would come prepared. The real war was about to begin. Revelations and resolve. The alien's lifeless body lay twisted on the forest floor, its unnatural form already beginning to dissolve into a metallic dust that the wind carried away. Ella knelt beside the remains, her fingers brushing against the strange residue. Each particle felt cold against her skin, and through her connection with the wolf, she could sense the creature's true nature, not just an invader, but a scout. The massive wolf approached, its silver blood already beginning to heal thanks to its otherworldly nature. For the first time since their bond had formed, Ella heard its voice clearly in her mind, not words, but understanding that flowed between them. Like water. They know we're here now, the wolf communicated. The hive mind connection these creatures share means the death of one alerts all the others. Ella nodded, having suspected as much. How many are there? More than your people realize. They've been replacing wildlife across the continent for months. But they're not the real threat. Images flashed through Ella's mind, the wolf's memories spanning millennia. She saw Earth as it was long ago, when the ancient guardians first arrived to protect the young planet from cosmic threats. She saw other worlds that had fallen to these same invaders, their life forces drained completely before the aliens moved on to their next target. What do they really want? She asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Earth's life energy. Not just to conquer, to consume everything that makes this world unique. Once they've replaced enough of the ecosystem, they'll begin the final phase. The wolf's memories showed her glimpses of massive vessels hidden beyond Earth's moon, waiting for the signal that the planet was ready for harvest. The scout creatures were just the advance guard, preparing the way for something infinitely worse. But the memories also showed her something else, hope. Throughout the galaxy, there were others like her, humans who had formed bonds with the ancient guardians. Most never realized their potential, living ordinary lives while their protectors remained hidden. But when the need was great enough, the bond could awaken into something powerful. My family, Ella whispered. Are they alive, but changed? The aliens don't kill indiscriminately. They study, they learn, they prepare to replace. You're loved. Ones are being held at the primary nest, about 50 miles north. But Ella, you must understand, rescuing them means facing the truth about what you've become. Ella stood, feeling a strength she'd never known before coursing through her small frame. The oversized leather jacket that had belonged to her father no longer felt too big. Nothing felt too big anymore. What have I become? Something new. The bond between human and guardian has never been this strong before. You're not just working together, you're evolving together. But that evolution comes with a price. Once you fully embrace what you are, there's no going back to the life you knew. Around them, the forest began to stir with unnatural movement. The other aliens were coming, drawn by their fallen comrade's final transmission. Ella could sense them approaching from multiple directions, dozens of them, all converging on their location. But she was no longer afraid. The scared little girl who had fled her village was gone, replaced by something that could stand against the darkness consuming her world. Then we don't go back, she said firmly. We go forward. The wolf's eyes gleamed with approval and something. That might have been pride. The nest is heavily defended. It will take everything we have to reach your family and stop the final phase from beginning. Now Ella smiled for the first time in months, and it was not a child's smile. Then let's show them what Earth's real guardians can do. The approaching aliens emerged from the tree line, 7 of them, each one larger and more dangerous than the scout they'd just defeated. But as they surrounded Ella and the wolf, something unexpected happened. The girl's eyes began to glow with the same ethereal light as her guardians, and the temperature around them dropped so rapidly that frost spread across the ground in intricate patterns. The aliens hesitated, their predatory confidence wavering as they realized they were no longer hunting prey. They were facing something entirely new, a fusion of human determination and ancient power that their species had never encountered before. Final battle for Earth was about to begin, and it would not be fought by armies or weapons, but by a 12-year-old girl and her otherworldly guardian who had discovered that some bonds transcend species, planets, and even evolution itself. Asterisk. The final stand. The 7 alien creatures circled Ella and the wolf like predators sizing up their prey, but their usual confidence had been replaced by wariness. They had felt the death of their scout through their shared consciousness, and now they could sense something in this small human that their species had never encountered before. Ella stood perfectly still in the center of the circle, her hand resting on the wolf's massive head. The connection between them had grown so strong that it was impossible to tell where one consciousness ended and the other began. The frost spreading from her feet created intricate patterns on the forest floor, and her breath came out in visible puffs despite the warm afternoon air. 50 miles north, she whispered to herself, her mind already mapping the path to the alien nest where her family was being held. We have to get through them first. The largest of the creatures, clearly the pack leader, stepped forward. Its form was more evolved than the scouts had been, taller, more muscular, with additional arms that ended in razor-sharp claws. When it spoke, its voice was a horrible grinding sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "The bonded one," it said, tilting its grotesque head. "We have heard whispers of your kind in the deep memories. You should not exist." Ella's eyes blazed brighter. "And yet here I am." The creature's laugh was like breaking glass. One small human and her pet. "You delay the inevitable. Soon your world's life force will feed the great ships, and Earth will join the countless dead worlds. We have harvested." "Not today," Ella replied, and the temperature dropped another 10 degrees. That the attack came from all directions simultaneously. The aliens moved with coordinated precision, their centuries of hunting experience evident in every calculated strike. But they had never faced anything like what Ella and the wolf had become. The massive guardian moved like a force of nature, its size and power magnified by Ella's human intelligence, guiding its every action. She could see the battle from multiple angles at once through her own eyes, through the wolf's, and somehow through the very forest itself. The ancient trees seemed to bend toward the fight, as if the earth itself was choosing sides. 2 aliens, flanked left while 3 came from the right, with the pack leader and another charging straight ahead. It should have been an overwhelming assault, but Ella was no longer thinking like a human. Her consciousness had expanded beyond individual, awareness into something collective and vast. She raised both hands, and the frost beneath her feet exploded outward in a wave of ice and energy. The charging aliens stumbled as the ground beneath them became treacherous. In that moment of confusion, the wolf struck with devastating precision, its claws and fangs finding vital points with surgical accuracy. But the aliens adapted quickly. The pack leader leaped over its fallen comrades, its additional arms reaching for Ella while its powerful legs drove it forward. Its claws were inches from her throat when something impossible happened. Ella didn't dodge or retreat. Instead, she reached out and caught the creature's wrists in her small hands. The alien's momentum should have knocked her down, should have driven those deadly claws deep into her body. Instead, the creature stalked as if it had struck an immovable wall. The look of shock in its molten gold eyes was almost comical. Ella's grip, powered by her bond with the ancient guardian, was stronger than any human should possess. The temperature around her hands dropped so rapidly that the alien's skin began to freeze and crack. "Impossible," the creature gasped. "You never understood," Ella said, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate through the forest itself. "You see humans as weak, because we're individuals. But when we truly bond with something, when we truly care about something beyond ourselves, we become unstoppable." The remaining aliens regrouped, their confidence shattered, but their desperation making them even more dangerous. They began to emit a high-pitched keening sound, a distress call that would bring every alien creature within 100 miles. Ella was no longer concerned about reinforcements. Through her expanded awareness, she could sense the massive ships hidden beyond the moon beginning to stir. The final phase was starting, whether she stopped these creatures or not. She had to reach the nest, had to save her family, and find a way to prevent Earth's life force from being drained away. The wolf pressed against her side, and she understood. They couldn't win by fighting every alien they encountered. They had to strike at the source. "Hold on," she whispered, and the world around them began to blur. The remaining aliens lunged forward, but Ella and the wolf were no longer there. They had moved beyond normal space, traveling through the connection that bound all living things together. In seconds, they had crossed 50 miles of forest, appearing at the edge of a massive clearing where the alien nest pulsed with unnatural life. The structure before them was part building, part organism arriving mass of technology and flesh that seemed to breathe. Hundreds of cocoons hung from its walls, each one containing a human captive being slowly studied and prepared for replacement. But at the center of the nest, something was rising from the ground. A massive antenna array was extending toward the sky, preparing to send the signal that would call down the harvest ships. Ella felt her family's presence among the captives, but she also felt something else. Thousands of other bonded pairs around the world, all awakening at the same moment. She wasn't alone in this fight after all. The guardian wolf let out a howl that echoed across dimensions, calling all the ancient protectors to battle. Across the globe, other humans were discovering their true potential, their bonds with otherworldly. Guardians activating as Earth's greatest threat finally revealed itself. The alien nest's defenses activated, turning toward Ella and the wolf with deadly intent. But as energy weapons charged and defensive creatures emerged from the writhing walls, Ella smiled. She could feel her family's minds within the cocoons, still aware, still fighting. She could sense the other bonded humans around the world preparing for their own battles. And most importantly, she could feel the ancient guardians awakening from their long slumber, ready to protect the world they had watched over for millennia. The final battle had begun, and humanity was no longer fighting alone. Ella stepped forward, her eyes blazing with power that transcended human understanding, the wolf beside her growing larger and more magnificent with each step. The alien nest's weapons fired, but the attacks passed harmlessly through them as they moved between dimensions, approaching the antenna array that threatened all life on Earth. "For my family," Ella whispered. "For Earth, for everyone who dared to bond with something greater than themselves." The antenna began to crack under the pressure of her expanded consciousness. The alien nest screamed in harmonics that shattered. Windows in cities thousands of miles away. And above them, the harvest ships that had waited so patiently beyond the moon suddenly found their ray. Connection to Earth's severed dot in a blaze of light that could be seen from space, the nest collapsed in. On itself, taking with it the aliens' ability to coordinate their invasion. The cocoons burst open, releasing hundreds of captives who stumbled free. Alive and unchanged, Ella found her family among them, their faces filled with wonder and recognition as they saw what their little girl had become. But there was no time for reunion yet. Around the world, other nests were activating. Other bonded pairs were fighting their own battles. The war for Earth was far from over, but for the first time since the invasion began, humanity had hope. They had guardians. They had Ella and others like her, standing between their world and the darkness that sought to consume it as the last of the alien technology crumbled to dust. Ella looked up at the sky, where the harvest ships were already beginning their retreat to find easier prey among the stars. Earth would survive. The bond between human and guardian had created something new, something powerful enough to stand against any threat. The invasion was over. The real protection of Earth had just begun. The end